Hi, thanks for watching. This is the Nick Luck Daily Podcast. It is Monday, the 16th of June, and you are joining us from Royal Ascot. I am at Ascot Racecourse now, in the paddock, alongside Ascot's Chief Executive, Felicity Barnard, about to supervise her first Royal Ascot in this position, but not her first Royal Ascot, because you've been here now, Fliss, a little while. Thank you so much for joining us today on what is a remarkably, almost unnervingly calm morning here at Ascot. I'm wondering how you're feeling.
Yes, you're most welcome. I
Thank
think
you.
You're right. It is calm. We are ready. Gates need to open now. You know, we are 2 days past Royal Ascot Ready Friday, which is the day that we want to. A couple of days ago, we aimed to be ready to go. Cellophane coming off the chairs. You know, everything's ready. So if we had to open on Friday, we could. We did that, and that's why today it's about those final touches.
Okay, from a personal point of view, how do you feel? Your first Ascot as CEO.
Oh my goodness. I mean, what a privilege. It is absolutely the pinnacle of my career, no doubt about it. I can't wait. The team have worked so hard. We've all worked so hard to get to this position. And so I feel excited. There's a few gulp moments when you look down the straight mile, you know, and think, my goodness, there's about to be 300,000 people over the next 5 days. But mostly we're ready. And I'm looking forward to it.
You've worked for Premier League football clubs, you've set up public companies, you have made Ascot's financial plan over the last few years. What is it about this job that is different from a personal point of view? What's different?
Yeah, well, look, I'm sure we'll get onto this in a few moments, but it's a very varied industry with lots of different stakeholders and lots of moving parts. And I quite enjoy that. You know, it's a challenging role. You know, Ascot itself is a fantastic business with an incredible heritage and history. But aside from that, you know, we are operating in a really interesting time for racing and in wider sport. Globalisation of lots of different sports that I've been involved in the past and certainly interested in looking at for this business. But I think, you know, taking something that has 300 years worth of history, modernising and making sure that we're relevant, you know, for today, it's incredibly exciting. And someone said to me recently, you know, what's the biggest challenge that you think you face? And I said, I think it's probably the opportunity. And how amazing is that for a role?
Just being here, when you walk in here, how does it make you feel? What emotions does it provoke?
Pride. Mostly, because of I know the work that's gone in over the past few months. Actually, year. It starts the day after Royal Ascot finishes. You know, by the team, the passion and the drive and enthusiasm that this team has is like nowhere I've ever worked. And 4 years ago, when I joined, you know, in the commercial role, I remember saying to the then chief exec Guy Henderson, "It's a really special place, and people really care." And I think walking in here and seeing the scale of what we're about to achieve, but to be honest, we achieve at every race day that we put on. I think there's an overwhelming sense of pride.
Could you have imagined yourself working in horse racing if I asked you 10 years ago?
No, absolutely not. But then I probably couldn't have imagined myself working for West Ham United when I first started my career either. And, you know, what a luxury and how lovely to find yourself in a different role. And again, someone asked me the other day the parallels between football and racing. And you know, there are quite a few, particularly from the commercial side. You know, we have sponsorship, we have attendances, we have media rights. You know, they're similar streams, albeit maybe different values. So, you know, there's lots of transferable skills that lots of people here have into different sports. So no, I didn't necessarily think horse racing would be it, but I'm delighted all the same.
And tell me a little bit about, for those who aren't familiar with you, I mean, you have been around here a little while, but where was home? Where did you grow up? How did you begin life?
Oh goodness, yeah. So I'm from Peterborough, which is you know, a city in Cambridgeshire. You know, working family and I would say a very normal upbringing. You know, happy, normal kind of British family. I've got an older brother who, you know, still takes every opportunity to think I'm ridiculous, and you know, it's
quite healthy, isn't it?
Very healthy, you know. And you know, I went to university and studied something completely unrelated to the job I'm doing at the moment, which I'm sure
you and me both.
And you know, and that was really because, like so many people, what do you do when you?
I'm not sure you can do a degree in being CEO of a racecourse.
I don't think you can, or even just generally. You know, it's business, isn't it? It's just understanding life, really.
So what did you study?
And I studied material science, metallurgy.
Right. Did you?
Yes, yeah.
So that presumably requires quite an intense lot of work relative to some of the subject that I did, where you turned up for about 3 hours a week.
What did you do?
French literature.
Did you? Yeah. Wow.
That was useful.
That's
as well, wasn't
really
it?
useful. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, lots of work, really technical. Sort of very science based, and whilst I enjoyed it, I think I identified very quickly. I'm a chatter. I'm a talker, bit of a persuader. Perhaps less Bunsen burner, more, PowerPoint.
But what it does tell me is what I knew already, which is that you have quite an analytical mind.
Yeah.
You have quite a forensic mind for detail.
Yes.
Which is what you do need to not let anything slip, particularly when in your commercial role.
Yes, yeah. I think what it teaches you, and I hope I have this, is a broad mind to be able to look at where the opportunities are in every situation. So if we're talking to lots of different people, are we allowing ourselves to get the most out of that relationship? And actually, are we offering the people that we're with the most out of that relationship as well? And I think that's really, really important. So it's about Ascot and Ascot's growth. But again, let's go back to our racing industry. It's making sure that the people that we interact with on a daily basis are getting the value that we can give as well. And that's really important. I think that's what probably I do have in the brain. I'm always sort of thinking about what we can do that's bigger and better and more.
Yeah, because even though this is a big place in scale and huge relative to some other parts of the industry, given where you'd come from, this huge global behemoth that is Premier League football, to what extent did you walk in here and say, I can see an opportunity here, and here that we're not quite taking up?
Yeah. I mean, yes, definitely. But I think it's really important, and I don't say this lightly, to be incredibly respectful of the past and of the work that's gone on here. So, all of the learnings and the history that's happened on this site over the last 300 years are incredibly important, and we make sure that we use those as we move forward. We sort of, pendulum them into the future. But absolutely, and I've talked before about the Ascot brand and the importance in building equity in our brand internationally to encourage people to engage with us. And these next 5 days are so important as our shop window, not only for Ascot but for racing. And what can we do to encourage those that haven't been here before or perhaps never will to engage with our sport, our brand, through our media content and, licensing, that kind of thing. That's a huge opportunity, not just in the revenue growth, which of course is important, but, a huge responsibility here at Ascot is to future-proof and help to future-proof the sport for the next 30 years. And I think Ascot has a really big part to play in that globally.
Yeah, it's very interesting you made that point, that it's not just about short-term getting the money in from media rights deals or wherever. To what extent is it about pushing that awareness of what is actually going on in such a crowded market? At one point, everybody would know that Royal Ascot was going on because there were only so many sort of societal touch points, and it was one of them. Now, you're just bombarded with stuff. Yeah,
I mean, there's so much choice out there. I mean, how can we be short-term when we're 300 years old? Our history dictates the way that we behave. And also, again, the business itself is in a very, very strong point at the moment, and so we do have that freedom. I talked about opportunity to be able to look at what that means. But you're right.
Can I just stop you for a second?
Yeah.
Because I'm really interested. How has that happened? Because obviously every racecourse has had its challenges, and when this massive grandstand behind us was built, Ascot took an awful lot of risk on.
Yes.
So why, now we're in 2025 and all you hear about in racing is financial headwinds, how has Ascot worked itself into a good solid position as we speak?
Yeah, look, I would say that I'm sure that every racing entity in Racecourse is doing absolutely everything they can to kind of change the position that they're in. I think with Ascot and Royal Ascot, we do have a special moment in the British summer, and we understand our identity. I talked about this earlier in the week, that what's really important for me within this business at the moment is making sure that everybody here knows what we're offering and the product is right for people. You've just talked about the competition in the market, of which there is a lot. We have at our lowest end a £25 ticket to come to Royal Ascot, and at our highest end, multiple thousands for our Michelin star chefs. And everything in between. That £25 ticket means that we're really accessible. We're always looking at changing our products so that they're relevant. And I think that has really landed. Now, as well as all of that, well before my time, I must give the team here a lot of credit in the way that they've managed the financial situation of this business to be able to very nearly pay off our grandstand. We're almost there. I mean, that's incredible when you've gone through the financial crisis and COVID. And like I said, that's all credit to the team that was here well before me. But, using all of that expertise, exactly right, to build a product, but also to make sure for Royal Ascot that we're telling people about it in the right way. I hope that lots of people listening to this have seen Royal Ascot campaigns all throughout the country, not just in London. We do spend money on that. We make sure we're telling people not just on the tubes but digitally. We've spent a lot of money on our digital infrastructure, so everything's online, and just evolving in the right ways to be able to make this a relevant product. And we've talked previously, Nick, I would like Royal Ascot to be positioned alongside Wimbledon, the Open, the Monaco Grand Prix as a moment in time every summer, and really represents racing and is proud of this sport alongside those big sporting events.
Well, it is. We know that it's a heritage event. It's just a question of maintaining that heritage and making sure that it can survive through the next century. Listen, it's survived since Queen Anne.
It has.
So 1711. She had a good idea.
She did. Oh, absolutely. All credits. In fact, it goes back to her.
Yeah.
I mean, well done. Yeah.
She had a ride through the park and
She
thought,
did.
right, let's have some racing
She
here.
said this looks like a nice place.
Yeah, and she was spot on.
She was.
I want to talk a little bit about the Ascot U, which is your campaign.
Yes.
What do you think the Ascot U is?
Oh goodness!
Or who is the Ascot U? Who's the Ascot Felicity Barnard? Maybe I should ask that.
Yeah, well, hopefully you'll see her tomorrow. We're dressed down today. So the Ascot U is about encouraging people to show the best version of themselves, and I think the insight into that is Ascot is for everybody, and Ascot is welcoming to everybody, whoever you are, wherever you're from. And when you come here, show the best version of yourself. That doesn't necessarily have to be in the most expensive clothes, but it could be in the way that you behave, and it could be with the friends that you bring. And so that's the Ascot U. It's about inclusivity and being for everybody. It's now, I think, the third year of the campaign, which is different and has been different for racing. We do feature horses in the campaign, but they're not always central to the campaign. And I think that really talks about the fact that we're proud of who we are, and we don't necessarily need to have a horse central. It by no means means that we are detracting away from the very important athletes that run here throughout the week. But I do think we are looking at a broad appeal, and like I said, people that want to spend £25 or £4,000, we need to make sure that we're marketing to everybody.
Here's the interesting thing I observed of the campaign: inclusivity, yes, but also quite clearly with the smartness, the clean lines, the grand design of it, it's aiming up.
Yes.
It's aiming up. So it's saying, here is something that is a quality product. Now, normally, quality product you associate with spending quite a bit of money, yet you're trying to be accessible at the same time. It's quite a knack for an agency or a company to marry those two things, isn't it?
It's really hard. It's really difficult. And, again, I said recently, if you are a Waitrose or a Bang & Olufsen, you know exactly where to market your product and where to put your marketing and media spend. We have this huge range of people, so we have to spend, money, but not as much as you'd think, trying to market to every single faction of society. So, yes, it is a knack, which is why perhaps it's a tension-grabbing campaign that makes people think, and then actually what we do a lot of the time is follow up digitally to try and persuade people to buy.
And actually, how important is your spend? That you actually, if you want a decent ad campaign, you're just going to have to put some money behind it.
Absolutely right, you do. And it's very important to us, and I think it's worked incredibly well. And it's not actually, funnily enough, the money that we spend isn't actually on the creative of the campaign itself. It's actually in the way that we place it. That's where the money comes. The money needs to be spent on actually telling people in the right way. So you should be served a very different ad to me. I should be on, LK Bennett website and have a pop-up that says, think of Royal Ascot. You could be on, I don't know, where are you? Top man, Hackett? No, wherever you are. And I think I'm being
You
unfair.
just keep firing them, Fliss. That's absolutely fine.
But and you have a different type of ad because you're a different person to me. The money that we spend comes in that is actually making sure that the content's served to the right people and they want to buy the right products. It's not actually in the creative of the campaign.
Just looking around the parade ring where we're sitting now, the number of commercial partners that Ascot have: Howden, Longines, Kipco, Peroni, Merton, Chandon, LK Bennett. Some great brands, some varied brands, Dubai Duty Free, some international brands. And up on the grandstand there, Kipco, Longines, Howden, just in silver, just subtly against your grandstand. But all of this is done in the Ascot style, not in the colours of the sponsors. It's in the Ascot style. It's almost as though, yes, you're very grateful to have your partners, but they are also now part of Ascot.
Yes, they are.
For the week.
That's exactly right.
It's a very clear distinction between what you see here and what you see on other racecourses and other sporting venues. Can you kind of explain a little about that?
Yeah, I think it's really important. You're absolutely right. Just when we have a partner or a sponsor that joins us, they are part of our family. And for the Royal meeting, they are required to be in our brand colours. The importance of that cannot be underestimated, and I think it's that we have confidence in the brand that we have. We understand where we need to be, and you talked about elevation, absolutely, and we believe that having that consistent look and inviting those brands to be part of our family for this week is really very important, and does definitely set the tone for that elevated experience for our guests.
You didn't come from racing. You've had to learn quite a lot about it in a short space of time. But it's not rocket science. We're not sending people to the moon. We're just running animals around a field. First of all, let's start positively. What do you love about the sport per se, if indeed you do love anything about the sport per se?
Of course. So you're right. And I often say to friends that aren't from racing too, at its simplest form, it's the easiest sport to understand, because it is first past the post, ready, steady, go. And that's great. So if you just want to come and watch incredible athletes running on the track, please do. And then it gives you the opportunity to be able to learn more and understand fillies and understand breeding. And the depth of this sport is amazing, and it does hook you in for sure. And I think that's because of the passion of the people that are involved in it. I recently spent some time in Newmarket at the beginning of the week talking to a lot of the trainers, and whatever anybody can do to bring you into this sport, they will do. And I think that's a really special thing, and it doesn't happen in other sports. So I think what I love about racing is this accessibility, that it's brilliant to be able to get involved in it very easily, and then once you're in, you can get hooked. There's also some very good characters in our sport, which that's what sport needs. I like to hear some of the trainers, and some of them are colourful. And that's good to hear. I like it.
So it's got a rich tapestry. Sometimes it can be a complex one politically as well as on the field
Indeed,
of play. So where is Ascot's role now? What's Ascot's position in driving the whole of the British racing industry forward? And indeed, do you have to have that responsibility, or can you just paddle your own canoe?
It's a really good question. So look, I met with Lord Allen recently and actually asked him that question. And asked him, where do you see our place in this, and how can we help? Because
you might have been the only person to ask him that. I bet there's no one else who said to him, "What can I do for you?" I bet everyone else is like, "Right, come on, Lord Allen, what can you do for us?"
Well, no, I mean, look, I think so many of us in racing are working towards the same objective, which is to have an empowered and strong BHA. We've all said it lots and lots of times. It probably means that in order to get that empowered and strong BHA, that there will be some changes to our industry in the way it currently stands. And those changes may be difficult decisions for us all to take, assuming that we're all well informed and agree. But I've worked here for 4 years, and I know all the stories about how difficult it's been for our industry over the past to be able to govern ourselves. So it's not an easy sport. There's a lot of different moving parts. So I think we can all be forgiven for finding it difficult, but what that does say is that if there are going to be changes, that's also going to be difficult too, and that's okay. So I gave Lord Allen my support. I would like to be central to some of those decisions and discussions, because I think it's important for our business as well, and I hope that we'll be able to use some of our experience to be able to move the industry forward. His plans are robust. I understand why he's doing it, and hopefully, I really do hope that we can come together as an industry to help make it happen.
Do you think he's going to get in post?
I think if we can work well with him and make what he wants a reality, yes, I think he will.
Okay. Well, let's keep our fingers crossed. And you want him to?
Yes.
That's the key, I suppose.
Yes, absolutely.
This week, of course, we park a lot of that, and we bask in what's an incredible week's racing. What do you wish for most fervently through the next 5 days?
Two things, I think. I think our guests that come enjoy themselves. We put on the best show that we can, and their experience is unrivaled anywhere in certainly in racing, but in sport as well. I think that's a huge objective, but also that we really are a beacon for our sport over the next 5 days. So those that haven't necessarily considered racing before are watching, as in a relaxed manner, that they actually then consider racing as something that they want to do, want to come, want to own themselves and consume. And I think putting on the racing, and look, you talked about it with Nick yesterday, we have an incredible programme. We're just so excited about the international runners that we have, and some of these clashes that we're going to see on the turf, how can that not inspire people that watch to want to get involved? So I think, look, those on the site having a good time, but really importantly, allowing us to be a window for people to look into our sport and think, I'm going to give that a go.
Can I just bring this back to you for a second? You obviously got to run the place for the week, and I realise that the infrastructure is well set. You've got a brilliant team, and it can do a lot of it very effectively, but you are still the person in charge, the figurehead. You've also got to talk to an awful lot of people. You are, as you say, a very chatty person. Do you find it easy to be on all the time?
Yes, I think I do. And and I have a young family, and you need to be on for them too, or you want to be on for them too.
So remind me how old your children are?
8 and 5.
8 and 5. Yeah, so plenty on.
And so, yes, I think so. I think, my default is enthusiasm. And that's not just for the media or for our guests. It's actually mostly for the team. So I need to be on, and I need to make sure that I'm. I have down times as well, for sure. And when we finish racing, I'll certainly have some moments to sit down and have a glass of wine quietly. But yeah, my default setting is to be on, I think. Yeah.
And how important do you think that is?
Yeah, very. I think very important, and again, mostly for the team here and for the staff. I think it's really important that they see the staff here see an engaged leader that it values what they do and is able to represent all of that hard work whenever asked. And so I think it's very, very important to represent them that way.
Fliss, thank you very much.
Thank you, enjoyed it.
Felicity Barnard, who is the Chief Executive here at Ascot. We will be here with a live podcast every morning. Hopefully we'll be with you sometime before 10 o'clock, depending on how we can get our act together during the next few days. Josh is just shaking his head at me. We will be, Josh, don't worry about that. A whole array of guests. Don't forget, we're at the Goss London Sale this afternoon, and we'll be catching up with a whole ton of people from across the racing world there. And I hope you've enjoyed this episode. That is it for today, Monday. I was going to say January. It's definitely Monday, June the 16th, the eve of Royal Ascot. Bye for now.